Well, Christopher Phelps joins us now from Nottingham University. He's a historian of modern American political life. Christopher, all good knockabout stuff there. Going back to this story of Jim Murphy stepping down as national political director for Trump, does anyone actually believe that it is for personal reasons?
There's no way to tell. It quite possibly could. I mean, things happen in people's lives, but the timing is not good for the Trump campaign. The national political director's function within a campaign structure is to be the one who does the outreach to groups on the ground, the veterans groups, the evangelical churches, this sort of thing on the GOP side, and mobilizes the vote. So he's responsible for voter turnout, especially in the key battleground states that are really where the election's going to be decided. And you simply don't want the person who's been in charge of that to be gone from the scene in the last 19 days.
Granted, but Trump's hardly been running a traditional campaign from the start. Does it really matter that much to him?
Well, he's had trouble with his campaign staff turning over all the time. He's had 3 campaign managers. We're now on Kellyanne Conway. That's the person who's in charge of the overall strategy for the debates and where to deploy the candidate and media strategy and that sort of thing. But the national political director is absolutely key. It's making sure that you as a campaign have targeted those core, active, ardent supporters of yours and making sure that they get their ballots in the mail or get down to the polls on election day and coordinating all of that. Trump himself, you're right, doesn't care that much about the ground game, but that's one of his own weaknesses viewed from the standpoint of a traditional political campaign. I mean, he tends to think that his celebrity will carry him forward, but campaigns are all about mobilization of actual votes rather than just stirring up sentiment on television. And you really need an effective campaign staff directed by competent professionals, political operatives, to do it. And that this person is withdrawing at this point indicates that it might be a flight from a sinking ship. I mean, if you're a seasoned campaign political operative and you can see the writing on the wall and it's going to be campaign disaster, you don't want your name attached to that on your CV. If you said, well, I was for personal reasons forced to withdraw a few weeks before that and I can't really take full responsibility, you're in a better position to go forward and play that kind of role on another campaign staff in the future.
Well, given all that, do we have to assume that Trump's campaign is now effectively dead in the water? Is there any way back for him from this?
Well, I see this as more symptomatic of a crisis of the campaign than probably causal. That is, it indicates that the campaign is probably already going fast and that Jim Murphy knew that the campaign is sinking. In the polls, Hillary's now ahead in the poll of polls, that is the aggregation of the scientific polling, by about 6% nationwide or 7%. And that doesn't sound like much, but we're talking something on the order of 8 to 10 million votes then in the popular vote. And in the Electoral College, that could be catastrophic. We're looking right now at a decisive win for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump, and it doesn't seem like any of the news that continues to unfold is doing anything to reverse that.
We're turning to Hillary Clinton. What does she need to do from here on in? Presumably just avoid any gaffes or more news coming out about emails?
No, I think that's right. I think try to keep the attention on Trump and all of his defects, because that is turning off the kinds of voters that he needs to win, the moderates, the independents, the suburban voters in states like Florida and Pennsylvania and Nevada. And as long as the problems of Trump are in the foreground, then she wins. On the other hand, she at some point needs to be able that this wasn't just a vote against Trump, that this was a vote for her and her agenda. And so in some way, foregrounding a positive vision that probably from her standpoint is centrist, that is won't alienate any voters who might otherwise be disinclined to cross over from a traditional GOP vote over to the Democratic side in this year, but nonetheless gives her a mandate. I mean, what she wants to have on Election Day is a mandate for her political reform agenda, and unless that's ably articulated in the next few weeks, it's going to be a bit more murky coming out of this very bitter and divisive campaign.
Fascinating stuff. Christopher Phelps, thank you very much indeed.